And now, after this season's strange growing conditions, I want to take a look at the crop of maize to see how that's fared. And to help me through that, I want to talk to Tim Richmond, Limagrain's product manager. Now Tim, we had a bit of a poor start to the season with a bit of cold, wet weather. How's that affected the crop?
It's been a variable season, and we had variable results and conditions around the country, Peter. So broadly, it's split. East side has been relatively hot and dry in the springtime, and then on the west side we've been followed by quite a lot of rainfall and quite wet during the summer, and obviously as we get into the autumn, although it's a little bit warmer now.
So a mixed scene throughout the country, but with that warm, wet weather in certain parts of the country, particularly the west, has that encouraged the development of any diseases like smut, for example?
Well, smut is a regular visitor to maize crops every year, especially where maize is growing continuously year after year. But it's particularly was a problem 2-3 years ago. But this year there is smut around, just not in any problematic kind of levels.
But one of the variations you alluded to a moment ago may be due to people holding back a bit on the fertiliser because it's been so expensive this last season too.
Yeah, well, I mean, who can blame farmers for questioning the expense on inputs? I mean, DAP, MAP last year, this spring, £750 per tonne. I have heard it's come down to nearer to £300 to £400 per tonne this time. And I really would recommend that farmers use DAP or MAP down the spout, because you need that phosphate to be right next to the seed, right next to the seedling as it comes through, because right at a very early stage the soil phosphate levels are quite immobile because it's colder. And we have a plant here, the effects that it can have on there. In a trial we had very well developed plants, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 feet tall, but unfortunately in the areas where there have been problems with the dryness and also the DAP lack of nutrient uptake, you can see the plants are very small, very underdeveloped, and you've got these crop effects with like a quilt effect, if you like. The tall bits where the nutrients being fine, the moisture going down to these 2 foot levels and up again, and this sort of quilt-like effect as you go over the field, which isn't going to be particularly productive. And
are there developments taking place in that stover? Because I believe some of your competitors are making claims for the digestibility and the use of the stover as playing quite an important part.
Well, let's sort of get our ducks in a row, as it were. Basically, the first and foremost in the UK, we need to grow maize that will get to 32% dry matter, and that's where the stage when it starts depositing starch into the cob. So you need to grow early maturing varieties that allow you to do that. Once you've achieved that objective and you've got the 32% dry matter, 32% starch content in the crop every year, then the next objective is to improve what's left of the plant, which is the stover and the leaves coming off it. And yes, that is an objective in breeders to improve that digestibility. But whereas starch is nearly 100% digestible, the digestibility of the stover and the leaf material is roughly between 45 to 55% digestible. So it's easier to increase energy through this bit first and then to go on to the stover and the stem afterwards. So.
Now, we're very fortunate to have had a few days dry weather in this otherwise wet season. Now, producers are in that dilemma. Should they move into harvest fairly quickly, or should they wait for more starch to be laid down? Because, of course, one of the problems is that once the water table starts rising, with a fair bit of water about this time, they're worried whether they'll actually get on the land to harvest the crop if they leave it too late.
You've got to look at the type of land. If you can travel on the land and the forecast isn't too bad, and if the cobs haven't matured, then I would always advocate leaving it, because all the starch deposition in maize happens in the last 2 weeks really, and those last 2 weeks are crucial. And obviously 14 days, if you can hang off just a week or even a full 14 days, it will improve things. I mean, I've got some cobs here that we brought on today. We've got some harvest going on at our site, one of our maize sites tomorrow, and you can see this cob very much ready, nice and orange and very much hard. You try and get your fingernail into that, and they're pretty much all the way there. So that's ideal, and if farmers have got cobs like that, get on with it. But unfortunately, in some parts of the country, it'll look more like this, and you can see that it's still very, very sort of white and milky. And yeah, what are you doing there, Peter? There's milk flying everywhere from the top. It's very, very wet. So in this sort of situation, they want to leave it for another week or 2 weeks if they can. All right.
Now, you, since joining Limagrain about a year ago, you've obviously had a busy season. Is there anything in the pipeline with Limagrain we should be looking out for?
Well, I was glad you mentioned the digestibility elements earlier on. Obviously, Advanta and Lima Grain now have been well known for early varieties and high starch varieties, and we've cracked that hurdle, if you like, really well. But just in the pipeline now, we have a lot of new digestibility coming through, genes coming through, and the very first product of this new program, if you like, has been Artist, which will be added to the descriptive list this year. It's a maturity class 10, it's very high yielding, it's the highest of the very early varieties for starch, for dry matter yield, and also for energy yield.
Thanks very much, Tim.
Okay.